Hi, AP European History students. I was so excited to meet you in class today. You may have noticed that I was so excited that I forgot to announce the homework. We will take care of that tomorrow, and almost as soon as we do, you will notice that you have an assignment that involves JSTOR, which is an academic research database, and you have no instructions on how to use JSTOR. This video cast is going to fix that. The goal of this presentation is to teach you how to use JSTOR, which will be a vital resource for research projects during the class and for the research paper that will be due in December. In order to use JSTOR, you will need a Boston Public Library card and a PIN number. Getting a library card was part of your summer assignment, but it's easy to take care of if you haven't done it yet. You can request a card and a PIN online, but I haven't had any luck doing that. I requested a PIN in March and I haven't heard anything back yet. The easiest thing to do is to just take your driver's license or another ID with your name, address, and signature on it to a branch of the Boston Public Library. There are branches throughout the Boston area. I got my BPL card at the Central Library. If you take the commuter rail to Back Bay, it's a 5-minute walk down Dartmouth Street to Copley Plaza, where the library is. It's right across the plaza from the church with the cute little fountain and the farmer's market on some mornings. The weather's supposed to be nice this Saturday, and it's a nice part of Boston to visit. Once you have your Boston Public Library card and a PIN, you're ready to use the research databases. On the Boston Public Library's website at bpl.org, you're going to find the Electronic Resources menu and click the A to Z list of resources. Once you get there, go down to the J's and click on JSTOR. The website will ask you to log in with your Boston Public Library card number and your PIN. In my experience, it can take a couple attempts to log in correctly. Once you've done it, your computer can save it and you shouldn't have to do it again. But don't hesitate to type your numbers in a couple of times. It's really easy to mess up those long public library card numbers. Once we get into the database, click on Advanced Search. That'll give you some options for things to look at. At this point, I'm going to go off the script and just tell you what I'm doing as I walk through it, which is dangerous because I'm going to say a lot, but it should give you an idea of what searching JSTOR is like. I spent my summer reading about Boy Scouts and spies, so I'm going to run some test searches on those subjects. For starters, I've typed Boy Scouts into the subject line, and we're going to search for that in the entire text of articles and their titles. I can choose a Boolean connector if I wanted to. For example, if I only wanted articles about Boy Scouts in Britain, I could add "and Britain." If I wanted Boy Scouts in the United States and outside Britain only, I could use "not Britain," or would give me articles about the Boy Scouts or Britain, which would be an enormous number. So I don't recommend using that unless you're trying to choose between two topics by finding out which one is more productive or something like that. Near 5, near 10, and near 25 all let me determine what things I want to find talked about together. So for example, if I'm looking for something like Verdun and I don't want to get it confused with tourist information, I might look for it to be within 25 words of the word battle or something like that. There are different ways to use these to refine your searches, and I recommend that you experiment with them and see what happens. Give yourself some time when you don't have a pressing deadline and just play with it. That's really the best way to figure out how to use any database. In addition to setting up my subject, I'm going to limit things to only content I can access. If I can't get to it, I don't really care about it. It's not helpful for me or my project. It's okay with me if I can find something in a link to external content and it doesn't show up on the JSTOR website, but I can get it through another website. So I'll click that as well. If I was worried about narrowing down my results, I might limit them to articles or reviews. I can also limit a date range. If I want to, for example, compare what people were saying about the Boy Scouts in, say, the 1950s to what they're saying in the 1990s, I could limit my date ranges here. and that can be useful. And again, there are other uses for it. I always recommend limiting your returns to the languages that you can read fluently. The next thing on the page is a list of disciplines that I can use to narrow down my search. For the purposes of this search, I'm going to choose history because I'm interested in this topic from a historical perspective. But because I'm looking at the Boy Scouts, I'm also going to pick feminist and women's studies. Feminist studies deal with gender issues, and the Boy Scouts are often studied from the perspective of talking about masculinity, which, believe it or not, in history is considered a feminist issue. If it has to do with gender, it's feminist. So I'm going to limit my topics there. I could have also thrown in British studies, and to be honest, I just don't feel like it right now, so I'm not going to. Once I've done that, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and I don't know if I can get it into your little film screen, but way down at the bottom there's a button that says search. I'm going to click it. And miraculously, I get a list of 2012 returns on my topic. Some of them, as I scroll down here, aren't actually relevant. Like Custer's Scouts looks to me like it's about the Battle of Little Bighorn, and it's from Montana, the magazine of Western history. So I could rescript my search to throw those things out. And if I was getting an absolutely enormous number of returns, I would. But 2,112 returns isn't all that many. I can kind of eyeball them. So as I scroll down here, I see this fabulously titled article called Uniforming Youth, Girl Guides and Boy Scouts in Britain, 1908 to 1939. I'm really excited by this title. It sounds like it would tie right into the topic that I'm interested in. So I'm going to click it and see what happens. All right, and what happens is that I get to this page that has information about the article and also a PDF file of the article. And again, your little film screen isn't covering the whole thing, but you can see that it's there. I can read this article on JSTOR. It would be helpful for me to know at least a little bit about where this was published. History Workshop Journal sounds like a journal, but I can't tell just from looking at it if this is a professional historical journal with academic street cred, or if I'm looking at some little journal that some graduate students threw together somewhere. So I'm going to click Publication Info. When I do that, I get this little pop-up window, and again, I'm going to pause this so I can move your screen over. Okay, this is giving me the publication info on the History Workshop Journal, and I can see that although it won't let me see anything outside about 7 years of content, this is a reputable journal. Apparently it is a leading historical journal that's known for its incisive scholarship and uses visual sources creatively. So this is a source that I would be happy to use if I were writing a research paper on the Boy Scouts this evening. Since I'm excited about this source, I'm going to find a way to save the citation. I could view the PDF, I could email myself the citation so I can find it again. I could do any of those things, but then I'm going to go back to my list of search returns because one article is never. Looking at this list of search returns, I can see that Tammy Proctor appears to have written a couple of articles. She might be someone kind of interesting for my topic. So to find out if she's written anything else that's useful for me and to find out what else she might have written about, I'm going to click her name. And when I do, I can see that she's written a bunch more articles about some about the Boy Scouts and some about some other topics. She's written a couple of articles about scouting, and as I scroll down, I also see that she's written at least a book review about women who were spies in World War I. I love Tammy Proctor now. I want to read everything she's written. She seems to have actually written a whole book about women in World War I, which is a pretty cool topic. And ties into my other major interests from over the summer, which was spies, which was an amazing coincidence. I had no idea that would happen when I picked this article. But, sometimes these things do. As I scroll down, I don't want to rely too much on one author no matter how much I like her. And I can't even tell how much I like her yet because I haven't read her articles. She and I just share a bunch of interests. So as I look down, I see that there are a bunch of other articles about the same topic by other people. David McLeod wrote some stuff just for fun. I'm going to click on him. He wrote about boyhood and adolescence. Ooh, he reviewed a book by Peter Stearns. I actually hate Peter Stearns. I have this long history of reading his books and feeling disgusted. But he writes a lot about masculinity. Well, Peter Stearns writes a lot about masculinity. I don't know anything about David McLeod at this exact moment. But he did write about the Boy Scouts, and he wrote about parents and child rearing. Or he wrote about Peter Stern writing about that, and seems to have written some book reviews. A lot of academic historians write book reviews because they're easier than research projects, and you need publication credits if you want to get tenure. So David McLeod, and he wrote a book called Building Character in the American Boy, which would probably be pretty fascinating, again, if I was writing a research paper on the Boy Scouts this evening. Okay, so having looked at that, I want to show you a couple other things that you can look at in JSTOR. One of them is book reviews. You can find book reviews in JSTOR, and that's useful. It means that when you're looking at a book, you don't have to rely just on your own opinion of that book. You can find out what other historians are saying about it. So I am going to turn to my second major topic from the summer, which was spies. I have about 3.5 minutes left before I run out of time in this presentation. So I'm going to run a quick search for some book reviews on spies. Finding a book review on JSTOR can sometimes be tricky. If the book you're searching for is too new, even if there have been many published reviews of it in all kinds of academic journals, JSTOR won't always show them to you because a lot of journals embargo their most recent issues. This problem is not unique to JSTOR. It happens in a lot of databases. So for this search, I've found a book that is on the topic and also old enough that it's not blocked out. Other books that I would love reviews to include things like Agent Zigzag and Double Cross by Ben McIntyre, and Agent Garbo, whose author I'm forgetting at the moment. Both books that came out this summer. There, for some reason, have been a huge number of retrospectives on World War II espionage coming out this year. Anyway, to narrow down my search, I've entered the title of my book in quotation marks in the topic line. I've clicked review under item type because I really want book reviews. And I'm going to limit myself to history this time. Most of the studies on spies have not really involved gender for some reason, although as we saw in the other search, they could. So having done that, I'm going to click search and see what comes up. And I have a book review. Look, it's an International History Review from March 2006. So I can click this link, and I'm going to scroll down so you can see, lo and behold, I have a book review on this book about German covert operations in Britain during the First World War. Now you can actually see it, and if I wanted to, I could go on to the next page and read the end of it. Once again, it's probably a good idea to check and see who published this. From the cover, the International History Review looks very academic, but anyone can look academic with the right font. So I can see here that they are the only English language quarterly devoted entirely to the history of international relations. And again, that looks pretty reputable, and I can check on the publisher and anything else that I'm interested in. This has been a very quick introduction to running research searches, and we will continue to work on refining this throughout the year. If you're having any trouble with the scavenger hunt, drop me an email and let me know. And also let me know how those trips to Boston to get the library cards go. I will see you in class tomorrow.